Good evening, and welcome to the Sleeping Zoo. Facts to fall asleep to. The reindeer Rangifer tarandus, known as caribou in North America, is more than just a ubiquitous symbol of the Arctic. It is arguably the most successful large mammal to have ever adapted to life in the extreme cold. A biological engineering marvel perfectly tuned to the unforgiving rhythms of the tundra and boreal forest. This single species, whose vast herds stretch across the circumpolar north, represents a pinnacle of physiological and behavioral adaptation, seamlessly integrating with an environment that crushes less specialized life. Our investigation into this remarkable animal must begin with a deep appreciation for its physiology, the complex toolkit that allows it to not only survive, but thrive in conditions where temperatures plummet far below freezing and resources are scarce for months on end. The most visible and vital adaptation of the reindeer is its extraordinary pelt. This is not simply a coat of thick fur, but a dense, two-layered insulating system that functions like the best modern thermal wear. The inner layer consists of fine, dense wool that traps a cushion of stationary air close to the skin, minimizing conductive heat loss. This inner layer alone provides incredible insulation. Over this lies a dense outer layer of guard hairs, and these hairs are particularly unique. They are long, coarse, and, crucially, hollow. Each hollow shaft is essentially an air-filled chamber, which dramatically increases the hair's buoyancy and, more importantly, enhances its insulating power by trapping even more air, preventing the inner warmth from dissipating into the Arctic environment. This complex fur system is so effective that in the most severe cold, a reindeer can comfortably maintain a core body temperature of around 37 to 38 degrees Celsius, without increasing its metabolic rate. This insulation extends even to the legs and feet, providing full coverage against the icy ground and water, a critical factor for an animal that spends its life standing on snow or frozen earth. In fact, a reindeer's coat is so well designed that the animal's primary challenge in severe cold is not staying warm, but rather preventing overheating, especially when running or migrating. This is solved by using specialized physiological vents, primarily the nose, but also by restricting blood flow to the extremities when resting. The reindeer's interaction with the frozen ground is managed by its highly specialized and seasonally adaptive hooves. Unlike the sharp, narrow hooves of deer that inhabit softer forests, the reindeer's hooves are broad, crescent-shaped, and deeply cloven, acting like natural snowshoes to distribute the animal's weight over a large surface area, preventing it from sinking into deep snow. This is essential for migrating across unstable snowfields and for walking on soft summer muskeg. These hooves also exhibit a remarkable seasonal plasticity. In the warm, wet summer months, the pads on the underside of the hooves are soft and fleshy, providing excellent traction and cushioning for walking on the damp, spongy ground. However, as winter approaches and the ground freezes, the soft pad recedes, leaving the sharp, hard, keratinous rim of the hoof exposed. This exposed edge becomes a natural ice chisel and scraper, allowing the reindeer to dig through hard-packed snow and crusty ice to reach the lichen, which is their primary winter food source, a behavior known as cratering. This rim also gives them superior grip on slippery, icy surfaces, a vital adaptation for crossing frozen rivers and slopes, ensuring that their foraging is never interrupted by the terrain. Perhaps the most ingenious of all the reindeer's physiological adaptations is the complex thermal management system housed within its nose and circulatory system. The reindeer's nose is large and features a dense maze of highly vascularized, scroll-like structures called turbinates. These turbinates perform two crucial functions. First, when the reindeer inhales frigid, Arctic air, the turbinates are lined with blood vessels that warm the air to nearly body temperature before it reaches the lungs, preventing damage to delicate lung tissue and conserving core heat. Second, and more importantly, when the reindeer exhales warm, moist air from the lungs, the turbinates act as a highly efficient heat and moisture exchanger. They cool the outgoing air, causing the moisture to condense and be retained within the nasal passages. This means the reindeer loses very little water vapor, which is a major factor in dehydration for most mammals in cold, dry air, and it conserves the heat that would have been lost in the warm breath. This process is so effective that the reindeer can reclaim up to 2/3 of the water and much of the heat from every single breath, a metabolic economy unmatched in many large mammals. This conservation efficiency is supported by a sophisticated countercurrent heat exchange system in the limbs. Arteries carrying warm blood down into the legs and hooves are tightly bundled alongside veins, carrying cold blood back up from the extremities. Before the warm arterial blood reaches the foot, it transfers most of its heat to the cold venous blood returning to the body core. This ensures that the reindeer's legs and hooves can operate at temperatures far lower than the core body temperature without risking frostbite or massive heat loss. By sacrificing the temperature of its limbs, the reindeer massively reduces the thermal gradient with the ground, minimizing overall heat expenditure. This also means that the hooves are essentially insulated from the rest of the body, creating an essential physiological barrier between the animal and the cold environment. Further compounding this efficiency is the presence of specialized brown adipose tissue, or fat deposits, particularly in young calves, which allows for non-shivering thermogenesis, a rapid method of generating heat metabolically. The reindeer also possesses a unique adaptation in its eyes, a feature only recently understood. It is one of the few mammals capable of seeing in the ultraviolet spectrum UV. In the Arctic, the sun is low on the horizon, and UV light is scattered across the landscape. More importantly, many objects of importance to the reindeer, such as wolf fur, urine marking the trails, and the contrast between snow and lichen, absorb UV light differently, making them stand out strikingly against the white, UV-reflective snow. This UV vision grants the reindeer a hunting advantage against predators and a massive foraging advantage, as it can see its primary winter food clearly even in the diffuse light of an Arctic winter day. The hollow fur, the adaptive hooves, the heat-reclaiming nose, and the UV vision are profound physiological tools, making up the foundation upon which the reindeer builds its extraordinary life cycle, enabling the demanding behavior that defines its existence, the great circumpolar migration. The behavior of the reindeer is dominated by a spectacle of movement, a massive, instinctual dedication to the cycle of seasonal change, specifically the epic annual migration. This is one of the world's largest remaining terrestrial mammal migrations, a relentless journey that can cover several thousand kilometers each year, driven by the alternating pressures of calving, insect harassment, and the search for high-quality forage. The migration begins in the spring, when the herds, sometimes numbering hundreds of thousands of individuals, abandon the shelter of the southern boreal forests or taiga, where they spent the hard winter months feeding primarily on terrestrial lichens. They move northwards, compelled by the thawing land and the need to reach the open, nutrient-rich feeding grounds of the Arctic Tundra, just as the snow melts and the brief Arctic summer bursts with green vegetation. This northward journey is strategically timed to coincide precisely with the emergence of the new, highly digestible, high-protein plant growth on the tundra, which is essential for females to recover from winter and produce the rich milk necessary for their calves. The sheer scale of this synchronized movement is staggering, with herds moving in long, single-file columns, an inherited knowledge of the land passed down through generations. The critical culmination of the spring migration is the calving season. Pregnant females arrive at specific traditional calving grounds, often open, elevated areas of the tundra. This timing is a trade-off. Arriving early means facing potentially late-season snowstorms and starvation. But arriving late means missing the peak nutrient pulse of the young vegetation. Once born, the calves exhibit astonishing precociality. They are able to stand and run within hours of birth, a necessity for survival in a landscape fraught with predators. This rapid mobility is a direct evolutionary response to the constant threat posed by wolves and bears, and the need to keep up with the moving herd. The summer months see the herds spread out across the tundra, focused on accumulating as much fat and muscle mass as possible during the short, intense growing season. During this time, however, the reindeer faces one of its most irritating challenges: insect harassment. Vast swarms of mosquitoes, black flies, and, critically, warble flies and nostril flies emerge. These insects seek to lay their eggs on or inside the reindeer, causing immense distress and parasitic burden. The defensive behavior against this is often chaotic and exhausting. Herds may frantically run to high, windy ridges, mountain peaks, or even wade into the ocean or large lakes to escape the swarms. This anti-insect movement can override the need for feeding and dramatically deplete the energy stores the animals are trying so hard to build, leading to significant physiological stress and sometimes population-wide energetic losses. This pressure is so great that it is a key driver for herd movement during the summer, almost as influential as food availability. The social structure of the reindeer is highly complex and is centered on the fluid composition of the herd. Reindeer are gregarious animals, and the herd structure provides safety in numbers and also facilitates the inherited knowledge of migration routes. The social hierarchy is defined primarily by the possession of antlers, a feature that is unique among all deer species because both males and females grow them. The only other deer species where females sometimes grow small antlers is the Chinese water deer. But in the reindeer, the female antlers are large and prominent. The antler cycle is intrinsically linked to dominance and the reproductive cycle, or rut. The male reindeer begin to grow their massive, multi-tined antlers in the spring and shed them in early winter, typically after the rut. Females, however, retain their antlers much longer, often keeping them through the winter and shedding them only after they have calved in the spring. This unique feature is a direct adaptation to the harsh Arctic winter. During the rut, which occurs in the autumn, intense fighting breaks out among males using their formidable antlers to establish a dominance hierarchy, with the dominant bulls maintaining harems of females. The energy expenditure during this rut is immense, often leading males to lose up to 30% of their body weight, and sometimes succumbing to exhaustion or injury, or becoming too weak to survive the oncoming winter. Because the rutting males deplete their energy reserves so severely, it is the female, retaining her antlers, who is dominant at the winter-feeding craters. She uses her antlers to defend small patches of excavated lichen against subordinate males and non-antlered individuals, ensuring she gets the vital nutrition needed to sustain her pregnancy through the long, barren months. This is a powerful, elegant example of natural selection, shaping a physical trait to prioritize the reproductive success of the female in an energy-poor environment. The behavior of the reindeer is thus an intricate seasonal dance dictated by hormones, climate, and the relentless search for sustenance, which in turn defines the nature of their habitat. The habitat of the reindeer is the vast, icy amphitheater of the circumpolar northern hemisphere, a monumental range that spans the Arctic and subarctic regions of North America, Europe, and Asia. This range covers diverse, challenging biomes, but is unified by its extreme seasonality, short growing periods, and the foundational presence of permafrost. Geographically, the reindeer occupies two primary biomes. In the north is the Arctic Tundra, a treeless plain characterized by permafrost, is permanently frozen ground that prevents deep root growth and dominated by low-lying vegetation like sedges, mosses, grasses, and most importantly, lichens. This is the summer calving and feeding ground. South of the tundra lies the taiga, or boreal forest, a vast zone of coniferous trees such as spruce, pine, and fir. This is the reindeer's crucial winter habitat. The trees offer shelter from the wind, and vitally, the mature taiga is where the most abundant and accessible terrestrial lichens, known as reindeer moss, grow on the forest floor and hanging from branches. The movement between these two environments, sometimes involving round trips of over 4,000 kilometers, is the heart of their ecological strategy. Within this broad geographical area, the reindeer species complex is organized into numerous distinct ecotypes and populations, each with slightly different habitat preferences. The two main subspecies groups are the tundra reindeer caribou and the woodland caribou. Tundra caribou, such as the porcupine or Bathurst herds in North America, are the truly migratory giants. Their life is defined by the open tundra in summer and the northern edge of the taiga in winter. Their large herd size is an adaptation to the open landscape where predators are easily spotted, and they have adapted to graze widely on the sparse, patchy tundra vegetation. In contrast, woodland caribou are non-migratory or only short-distance seasonal migrators. They are found deeper within the boreal forest, where they face different environmental pressures mainly deep snow and forest predators. To cope with deep snow, they have developed even broader hooves and tend to be solitary or in small groups. Crucially, their winter diet relies almost entirely on arboreal lichens rather than terrestrial lichens found on the ground, allowing them to avoid digging through meters of snow, a key difference in habitat use. The common thread uniting all these habitats is the presence of lichen. Lichen is a slow-growing, highly specialized symbiotic organism composed of a fungus and an algae. In winter, when other food sources are frozen or unavailable, lichen provides the reindeer with its primary energy source. It is easily digestible and, unlike grasses, maintains its nutritional value throughout the winter. However, lichen is also extremely slow-growing, taking decades to recover from intensive grazing, fire, or disturbance. This dependency on a fragile, slow-regenerating resource is the ultimate constraint on the reindeer's population size and movement, forcing the constant migration cycle and defining its entire ecology. The health of the taiga and the tundra is quite literally measured in the health of the lichen beds, creating a delicate, easily disturbed balance that influences all life in the Arctic. The reindeer's specialized foraging in the Arctic defines its ecology as a keystone herbivore, fundamentally shaping the structure and function of the circumpolar ecosystem. Its role is multifaceted, encompassing nutrient cycling, ecosystem engineering, and serving as the foundational prey for numerous high-level predators. As the Arctic's dominant herbivore, the reindeer's influence on vegetation is immense, particularly in its wintering grounds. By grazing heavily, the reindeer acts as an ecosystem engineer. High-density grazing can prevent the encroachment of taller shrubs and trees onto the open tundra, thereby maintaining the lichen-dominated landscape that is essential for its own survival. However, overgrazing in a specific area can be disastrous, leading to long-term reductions in lichen cover due to its slow recovery time. The impact of the herds is also visible in the snow, where their persistent digging through the snow to find food, called cratering, disturbs the snowpack. This disturbance often exposes soil to colder temperatures, which can increase the thickness of the permafrost layer, indirectly impacting local soil hydrology and root growth. Furthermore, through their migration, the reindeer perform a vital service in nutrient cycling, transferring vast quantities of nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon from their feeding areas to their calving and resting areas via their droppings, enriching localized patches of the barren tundra. The reindeer's diet is a masterclass in seasonal adaptability. In summer, the diet is rich and diverse, consisting of the young, tender growth of grasses, sedges and forbs, as well as the leaves of dwarf shrubs like birch and willow. This high-protein summer diet is crucial for rapid weight gain and antler growth, serving to build up the thick layer of back fat and rump fat that will be their primary energy reserve during the long winter. They also opportunistically consume high-calorie items like mushrooms when available. Intriguingly, reindeer have also been documented consuming small quantities of animal matter, such as shed antlers, and even the occasional small rodent or bird egg, likely to supplement their diet with essential minerals, particularly calcium and phosphorus, which are scarce in the lichen-dominated winter food supply. The winter diet is a dramatic shift to the low-energy, highly digestible lichen. The ability of the reindeer to survive on lichen is attributed to a specialized digestive process, unlike many ruminants that rely on a highly diverse microbial community in their rumen. The reindeer's rumen contains specialized bacteria that can break down the complex carbohydrates found in lichens, specifically lichen. The lichen diet is, however, extremely low in protein, meaning the reindeer must reduce its activity drastically and rely heavily on stored fat to survive. It is a metabolic balancing act, constantly calculating the energy gained from digging and consuming lichen against the energy lost to the activity and the cold. A poor summer feeding season can mean the reindeer enters the winter with insufficient fat reserves, often leading to mortality, particularly among calves and rut-exhausted males. As a primary herbivore, the reindeer is the essential link between plant energy and the high-level predators of the Arctic. The population dynamics of key carnivores are intrinsically linked to the size and health of the migratory herds. The gray wolf Canis lupus is the most important natural predator of the reindeer across its entire range. Wolf packs specialize in hunting reindeer, often targeting the weakest, oldest, or youngest individuals, thereby performing a crucial selective function that maintains the health and genetic vigor of the herd. The predator-prey relationship is an eternal, co-evolutionary dance. The reindeer's migration and large herd size are adaptations to evade wolves, while the wolf's endurance and cooperative hunting are adaptations to take down reindeer. Other significant predators include the grizzly bear and the polar bear, with bears preying heavily on calves during the calving season, when the calves are less mobile. In the northern forest, the elusive wolverine is also a threat, often scavenging but also capable of taking down an injured or trapped animal. The reindeer's survival is also constantly challenged by parasites, particularly the warble fly, Edimagena tarandi. The female fly lays eggs on the reindeer's coat, which hatch and bore into the skin, migrating subcutaneously until they create large subcutaneous swellings known as warbles, often along the animal's back. The emerging larvae cause extreme irritation and can damage the hide. Another highly stressful parasite is the nostril fly Siphonia trompe, whose larvae develop in the reindeer's throat and nasal passages, causing respiratory distress and, in high numbers, potentially secondary infections. The immense behavioral stress caused by the flies is often more detrimental than the parasites themselves. Burning through critical energy reserves the reindeer needs for migration and overwintering. This intense, persistent pressure from predators and parasites underscores the difficult reality of the reindeer's survival, leading us to examine the profound challenges currently facing its conservation. The conservation status of the reindeer is complex and increasingly concerning, reflecting its massive circumpolar range and the differing pressures on its numerous distinct populations. While the species, Rangifer tarandus, is currently listed globally as vulnerable, this classification masks a reality where many individual herds are facing drastic, rapid declines, with some populations listed as endangered or even locally extirpated. The primary drivers of these declines are directly linked to the accelerating impacts of climate change and the fragmentation caused by industrial development. The effects of climate change are arguably the most severe, creating conditions that fundamentally undermine the reindeer's physiological and behavioral adaptations. One of the most devastating phenomena is rain on snow events. Traditionally, Arctic precipitation falls as light, dry snow, which the reindeer can easily penetrate with their hooves. However, rising winter temperatures are leading to periods of rain, followed by flash freezing, creating a thick, impenetrable layer of ice crust, both on the ground and often beneath a thin layer of snow. This hardened ice prevents the reindeer from digging down to access the vital lichen below. Widespread starvation events have been documented across the Arctic, where otherwise healthy animals cannot access their food supply. The lack of reliable access to winter food prevents pregnant females from building necessary fat reserves, leading to high rates of fetal loss and reduced calf survival, creating a generational decline. Another critical consequence of warming is the expansion of the boreal forest and the shrub line into the traditional tundra calving grounds. This vegetation encroachment reduces visibility, making the herds more vulnerable to wolf predation, and also alters the diversity and nutrient profile of the vegetation the reindeer relies on in summer. Additionally, warmer temperatures lead to longer, more intense seasons of insect harassment, forcing the reindeer to spend more time escaping swarms and less time feeding, further compromising their energy balance. Industrial development and habitat fragmentation pose the second major threat. The Arctic is increasingly targeted for oil, gas, and mineral extraction, leading to the construction of extensive infrastructure such as roads, pipelines, exploration sites, and seismic lines. This linear development fragments the ancient migratory routes, forcing the herds to take longer, more difficult detours. Reindeer are highly sensitive to human and industrial presence, often exhibiting strong avoidance behavior around roads and infrastructure. This avoidance burns critical energy reserves and can prevent them from reaching their traditional calving or feeding grounds on time, leading to lower birth weights and increased calf mortality. The environmental damage caused by these developments also includes localized pollution and increased human hunting pressure along new access routes. Finally, overharvesting and poorly managed hunting still contribute to localized declines, particularly when combined with environmental stresses. While indigenous communities have long practiced sustainable harvesting, the combination of commercial hunting pressures, increased access for sport hunters, and the difficulty of accurately assessing herd size under harsh conditions has led to unsustainable offtake rates in some regions. Furthermore, the genetic mixing between wild herds and semi-domesticated herds, often managed by the Sami and Nenets people, introduces further complexity, including disease transmission and competition for high-quality grazing land. Conservation efforts are focusing on large-scale landscape planning, prioritizing the protection of the vast interconnected migratory corridors. The designation of large protected areas, such as the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska, is critical for protecting the calving grounds of the vast porcupine caribou herd. Scientific research is increasingly centered on modeling the impacts of climate change and monitoring the health of the herds, often utilizing GPS collars to track movement and pinpoint critical habitat. Crucially, the long-term survival of Rangifer tarandus hinges on the ability of governments and indigenous communities to collaborate effectively, placing the ecological needs of the great herds above the short-term economic gains from resource extraction, acknowledging that the fate of the reindeer is a barometer for the health of the entire Arctic ecosystem. The deep reliance of human civilization on Rangifer tarandus has indelibly etched the creature into popular culture, folklore, and legend across its entire circumpolar range, shaping the identity of entire ethnic groups and becoming a fixture in global winter mythology. For the indigenous and traditional peoples of the Arctic and subarctic, including the Sami Fennoscandia, the Nenets of Siberia, the Inuit of Canada, and the Gwich'in of Alaska, the reindeer is more than an animal. It is the foundation of their culture, economy, and survival. For the Sami and Nenets, large-scale domestication of the reindeer has been practiced for thousands of years. The animal provides virtually everything necessary for life in the high latitudes. Its meat is a primary food source. Its milk is consumed and used to make cheese. Its hide provides the warmest, most durable clothing, blankets, and tent coverings. Its sinew is used for thread, its bones and antlers for tools and art. The semi-nomadic lifestyle of these peoples is entirely dictated by the reindeer's migratory schedule, with herders moving their vast herds between summer and winter pastures, a living embodiment of the symbiotic relationship between humanity and nature. This connection is deeply woven into their folklore, where the reindeer is often a spiritual guide, a relative, or the originator of creation myths, holding a sacred place in their worldview that commands respect, not just utility. In Western popular culture, the reindeer's fame rests almost entirely on its association with Santa Claus and the Christmas season. This enduring image of a sleigh pulled by a team of flying reindeer is a surprisingly recent cultural construction, evolving primarily in the 19th century in the United States. While the sleigh is a clear European adoption, originating from the sleds used by Sami and other northern peoples, the notion of flying reindeer was cemented by Clement Clarke Moore's 1823 poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," which introduced the names of the original 8 reindeer: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Dondal, later Donna, and Blitzen. This poem took a traditional European folk figure, Saint Nicholas, and fused him with a mode of Arctic transportation, the sleigh, pulled by the most charismatic animal of the North, the reindeer, transforming it into a fantasy icon. The reindeer's mythical presence was completed in 1939 with the creation of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Created by Robert L. May for a Montgomery Ward department store promotion, Rudolph, the outsider with the glowing nose, became an international sensation through the 1949 song written by Johnny Marks, cementing the idea of a 9th, special reindeer leading magical team. The reindeer's association with Christmas is so pervasive that it has largely eclipsed its biological reality in the popular imagination. Yet it serves as a powerful seasonal reminder of the vast wild landscapes it truly inhabits. Beyond the Santa legend, the reindeer holds a place in deeper European folklore, particularly in Norse mythology. While often confused with elk or various deer, the mythology features creatures with powerful antlers that symbolize the connection between the sky and earth, mirroring the reindeer's seasonal migrations. In some myths, the world tree, Yggdrasil, is grazed upon by 4 stags, often interpreted as reindeer, symbolizing the cyclical destruction and renewal of nature. In the modern context, the reindeer is frequently used in advertising and branding to evoke images of purity, coldness, resilience, and the natural world, a testament to its cultural resonance as a creature of the ultimate wilderness. In conclusion, the reindeer is a spectacular example of evolutionary persistence, a large mammal that has achieved widespread success by dedicating its entire being to the challenges of the Arctic. Its extreme physiology provides an unparalleled defense against the cold, while its intricate behavior is dominated by the vast inherited wisdom of the annual migration cycle, a relentless search for sustenance. Its presence in the harsh habitat of the taiga and tundra is the defining feature of its ecology, where it acts as a keystone herbivore, mediating the delicate balance of lichen and predator populations. The immense pressures from climate change, particularly the destructive rain on snow events, combined with industrial fragmentation, render its conservation status precarious, a profound warning sign for the future of the Arctic. Yet, the reindeer persists, not only in the wild, but in the human spirit, serving as the cultural and economic backbone of indigenous peoples and the powerful magical symbol that lights the way through the longest, darkest winter night. Thank you, and good night.